So I want to talk a little bit about Samson. Is everybody familiar with the Samson story and tough guy and killed lion and all that good stuff? Okay, I just want to make sure that we didn't need to go. How far do I got to go back before I start talking about this? I was always intrigued by Samson whenever I was growing up. I think he was probably one of my favorite stories because he's the tough guy, right? So he's like the superhero, if you will. You know, when you hear it in the little classes, he's like a superhero. Yeah, he's like Thor, exactly. I mean, lion, he just ripping and roaring, whatever. And so, as a kid, I thought that was, of course, obviously, I've always been the runt. So, the tough guys got my attention, And then whenever I got older and I started getting interested in girls, the story of Samson kind of changed a little bit for me. And it showed me just how much a man will do whatever it takes to get the attention of the pretty girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, he already set her up a couple of times, and she clearly showed that she was not trustworthy. Am I right? Right? She failed. And yet all she had to do was just bat her little eyelashes just a little bit more and tilt her head just a little cuter. And he still told her anyway, right? So then I realized that, anyway. But there's actually an interesting, Samson's life can reflect into our lives. It's amazing how so many of the stories of the Bible, you can almost put your name there. You know what I mean? And for me, that's how the Bible comes alive. Samson's life is one of contradictions. First, he was to be a Nazirite, set apart to God from birth. And you find that in Judges 13 and 5. Yet he continuously broke his vow. The Spirit of God came upon him many times, giving him great strength to fight the Philistines, the oppressor of the Israelites. At the same time, however, Samson was a womanizer and a vengeful man, full of sin. Samson's life illustrates that giving in to temptations leads to sin, that God will use even a sinful man to enact his will, and that God will not let us escape the consequences of our sin. See, it reminded me, and I know I do this a lot, and I'm not trying to pick on TV evangelists because I know there's a lot of them that have good messages and they have good intent. So I don't mean to always go there, but being an 80s kid and seeing how influential the movement of the televangelist thing was. If you ever really look at the peak of evangelism, I would say the 80s is by far probably one of the biggest peak, and that's kind of where I grew up. So if you weren't in church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, you were watching some evangelists on TV, and because you had 4 channels, that worked. And the president didn't have anything to say, then you were watching TV. In my home, we were watching TV evangelists. Anyway. But unfortunately, a good number of them fell from grace. That was either prostitution, it was either money laundering, it was both, it was extravagant spending, it was lying about where funds were going, it was tax evasion, it was all kinds of things that made these guys fall from their pedestal that so many people had them on. They wanted to be on, a lot of them, I hate to clump them all, a lot of them wanted to be on that pedestal, and the people put them there. And unfortunately, we're still seeing that today. Anyway, but make no mistake, the works that were happening were changing lives still. I mean, these guys are robbing from the system, and yet lives were still being changed. Miracles were still happening. See, God's not concerned with what that individual is doing with their gift. He's interested in the heart of the people that are showing up, that are coming to see the face of God, that are coming to be healed, that are coming to be blessed, that are coming to have their prayers answered. It wasn't decided on the guy that was standing in the pulpit. God still moved and still made miracles happen and still saved lives in the midst of the fact that that man or woman was a liar, was a cheat, was a thief. See what I'm saying? So God can use whoever, whenever, however He wants. Period. So I guess it kind of goes back to that thing that I always say, don't put the man on the pedestal. That's where God belongs in your life. Because a man can let you down, but God never, ever, 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 ever will. See what I'm saying? In the life of Samson, giving in to temptation can lead to sin. Samson's story begins with a violation of God's law. He wanted to marry a Philistine woman despite his parents' protest and his violation of God's law about intermarriage with pagans. His mother and father accompany him past the vineyard to obtain his new bride. When a lion attacks, it is killed by Samson. As a Nazirite, Samson has to follow the laws written in Numbers 6, 1 through 21. First, he has to abstain from wine and other fermented drinks, and not drink vinegar made from the wine or from other fermented drinks. He must not drink grape juice or eat grapes or raisins. By passing by the vineyard, he invited temptation to violate this portion of his vow. Had he not walked so openly into temptation, he would not have encountered the lion. Isn't that interesting? Listen, you know, he purposely walked himself into temptation, past the temptation, past the very thing that he was supposed to stay away from. How often do we put ourselves in the wrong place at the wrong time and then don't understand why we fall? If you never would have went there knowing your weakness. See, there are people that have a weakness with alcohol. Okay. Don't go work at a liquor store. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why I can't get better. Duh. Come on, man. You know? He knew that he wasn't supposed to do these things, and so he broke the law. This lion comes along, and he's still allowed to take it out. See, you can fall, and God can still raise you up. See? The problem is too many people fall, and then they forget to get back up. They think, oh, that's it. I've slipped away. I've fallen. I did the thing I'm not supposed to do. I said the thing I shouldn't have said, or I went somewhere, or whatever the case may be, and now I've fallen and I failed. What God's saying is just get back up. Just get back up. Dust off the situation. Keep moving forward. We don't have time to sit. This world does not have time for us Christians to sit and cry about a little fall that we might have made. We don't have time for that. We've got to get out there and start telling people. We need to worry more about spreading the message and not about the trips along the way. Because they're going to happen. We've all got things that come up. I'm not saying that we should openly sin. I'm not saying that either. But I'm saying that we're human beings and things happen. You get to a road rage situation, you say something, you think something, somebody does something, says something to you that's not right. The brain does what the brain does, the thought happens, or maybe you bust them in the mouth. I don't know the situation, you know. You know what I'm saying? You stepped the line, you went over. It's okay, because there's forgiveness for what that happens, and then what do you do from there? You got to pick up, and you got to keep going. Don't repeat your sin, keep moving. Right? Throughout the period, sorry, I missed. Where was I? Here. I lost my spot. I'm moving along. God will use even a sinful man to enact His will. Samson willingly went into situations that led to sin, but each time God used him for His glory. God created Samson to begin the deliverance of Israel from the hand of the Philistines, Judges 13 and 5. Even sinful men cannot prevent God's will. When Samson killed the lion, it was the first recorded test of strength. It gave him confidence to face the Philistines. He killed 30 Philistines out of vengeance in order to pay a debt. Later, Samson swears to get even with the Philistines, Judges 15:3, and to get his revenge on the Philistines, Judges 15:7. Both occasions were for personal reasons and were not godly, but God used them as springboards to launch Israel out of their oppression despite Samson's sin. God's will not be undone. No matter where we are, God's will in our life will never be undone. See, God called me a very, very long time ago into the ministry, but I made a choice not to follow through. I was prophesied over at 6 years old that I would be a minister, and I did not get into the ministry until 7 years ago. And I'm almost 40, so I didn't follow through for quite some time. I did very early on. I was probably 14 or 15. I was sort of a youth pastor, assistant youth pastor, I guess, if you will, or something. But other than that, I didn't really get into the ministry till later on. But through all of the things that I did with my life, through all of no matter how dark I got, no matter how far away I got, no matter how much I tried to claim to be an atheist and all of these things, God still had a will and a purpose and a plan. And I might have I sometimes think, man, if I would have just followed through with that calling, where could my ministry, where could I be now, instead of being almost 40 and still feeling like I'm just getting started, where could I be? But I can't let that consume me, and I can't worry about where I went and how bad it got and how far away from God I got. All I want to focus on is where I'm at right now in God. I just want to focus on His plan right now in my life. So I'm not going to allow myself to worry about where I was. Now, there was still a consequence to my sin. Jail, been there, okay? Lost my family for a while, was on my own. My wife had enough. I don't blame her, okay? So I was on my own for a while. Luckily, she was good enough to take me back. I didn't deserve it, I was probably decisions away from being deep into the bad world of drug goods and trade. I was sort of working my way up, if you will, in the system. And I was probably not too far, because I wasn't quite as smart as I thought I was, and so I wasn't too far away from looking at prison instead of jail. But through all of that, see, God still had a plan and a purpose for my life. His call didn't go away just because I wasn't following His plan. See, God was still using me in ways that I never even noticed until after I got back into church and realized that even despite myself, God still had put me in a few different places where He was able to use me for His good. And some of these days I'll share some of those stories, but I won't do that tonight. God can touch down into any place that He wants. See, the problem is that we put Him in a box of what we think and how we think He's supposed to act, how He's supposed to show up, how He's supposed to perform, we decide, we have decided that this four walls is where God does His work. No, there's great works that happen in these four doors, but God's working through each and every one of us here. We are the only Jesus that a lot of people are ever going to see. So we have to think about that when we're in our actions and the way we carry ourselves and how we treat other people. And we have to think about that. We're representing Christ. Okay? So as Christians, we need to be thinking about that all the time. And I understand things happen. And we make mistakes. But Jesus already, he already knew that we were going to make mistakes. He knew that. He gets it. You know? He used a man that he knew full well was going to break the rules. He knew he was. He already knows, right? Jesus knows before we know. He already knows what's going on. Like, he gets it. He already sees the future. So he already knows. So you're not going to do anything that shocks him. You know? If Jesus ain't going to say, whew, I didn't see that one coming. He threw me a left curve. No. Jesus already knows the plan. So, you fall down. You make a mistake, you go where you know you didn't need to go, you do something you know you don't need to do, repent. Get up, dust yourself off, and let's do some work. Let's do some kingdom work. Let's start telling people about Jesus. Let's start telling people about the journey. You know, I'm not saying that you need to light up your Facebook with all kinds of track stuff and Jesus stuff and all this other stuff, because let me tell you what happens. This even happens to me. I got one lady who has to have more prophetic words than anybody on the face of the earth, okay? Love her heart, but she is blowing up Facebook all the time. She's very end of day, okay? Again, that ain't my place, okay? But as you scroll through and I see her name, a lot of times I just scroll on by. I don't even read the 4-page, thing. I just keep going, And so I'm not saying that we need to do that, but also we can't blow up Jesus 1 minute and then throw in F-bombs and half-naked women and men and stuff like that 2 posts later. You know what I mean? Yeah. Pick a field here. You got to decide what you're doing, because nobody's going to take you serious. Nobody's going to take you serious. When you start talking back about God again, nobody's going to take you serious. They're going to scroll up and be like, hello. You just posted this, blah, 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 and now you're trying to tell me that I'm supposed to love Jesus and be like you. Well, I posted that. You shared my post. Like we're already on the same field. Listen, I was going to just leave this alone, but that'd be out of character. That'd be out of character too. I went to Chicago, and we went and did a tribute thing for my brother, because that was our thing. We went to the practice, and then we went to, or not practice, excuse me, family day, the draft at Soldier, and then we stayed the night. The next day we go to Wrigley and we watch the Cubs game. And we had been walking all around the grounds and the whole 9 yards. And my cousins and my best friend kept saying, every time they would do a picture, do the Joe Boo salute. Now, my brother's nickname was Joe Boo. I can't even share that story with you. But anyway, how he got that name. But anyway, he just did. And so we got jerseys, and we had his name put on the back of it or whatever. And so they would say, okay, we're at the whatever picture thing, taking a picture, do the Joe Boo salute. Now, that was flipping off the camera, okay? So everybody would flip off the camera. Those guys were, okay? So this time being there was different. The first time we went, you could go wherever you wanted. There was like nobody, because it was just Bears fans. Well, this was the big draft, and so everybody could be there. So everything was aligned. It was annoying. It was like being at like Six Flags, 45-minute wait for a 10-second thing, So everything was aligned. Well, we were getting in line to be underneath this, the dome that they come out of whenever they're introduced. We were all standing there, and the guy took some guy offers to take our picture, so the 4 of us end up in this one shot, because a lot of us, it's just 3, because somebody else in the 4-pack is taking a picture. It's the 4 of us. My cousin yells out, do the Joe Boo salute, which is flipping off the camera. Without even thinking about it, I flipped off the camera with everybody. What's the very next picture my cousin posts on Facebook? That picture. and tags me in it, which means it goes on my news feed. It took about 2 hours and 45 minutes before Pastor posted question marks all the way across in the comments. Yeah, that long. And that's probably because he was busy doing something else and just wasn't on Facebook. So I untagged myself to, at least try to do some damage control to the situation or whatever. Of course, it was already seen. It was already out there. I feel bad because that hurts my witness. That if somebody sees that photo, now in that moment, being there for why we were there, and you're in the hype, it was that fast. If no picture had been taken, 4 people would have known that happened. But God bless the internet, everybody knows that it happened, right? And now it's everywhere, right? Yeah. I've already asked for forgiveness for the situation, and Pastor and I have already had our talk and all that good stuff, and it was just and needed. But that's how quick we can slip and make a mistake. Some of it's words that nobody else may ever heard, a bad thing, a bad word or whatever, or a cussing streak that we do at work because we get mad, or we do it in our car and we think it's just us. But everywhere we are and everything we do, God is always present. I've had many people that know I'm a pastor and have been swearing in a room. I had I had a guy at a dealership do that. He's cussing to beat the band. And I'd already come in. Now, he knew me from here. He's cussing to beat the band because there's a half wall between he and I'm short, so he couldn't see that I had come in the room at all. And he's just, beep, 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 about some deal that wasn't going through the way it needed to come through. And I wasn't being arrogant. I was just coming in the room. That's where I needed to be for my ad. I come around the wall, and he was like, hey, preacher, sorry about all that. And I looked right at him and I said, you don't ever have to apologize to me. God was here the whole time. So I'm not the one going to be sitting on the seat when you get there. I'm not going to be the one sitting in God's ear going, well, you didn't hear him at the dealership. Yes, you did. You answer to God. I appreciate the respect of, sorry about that, blah, blah, blah. But it was almost like that looking for a forgiveness moment. Well, I'm not the one that does that. No matter what other faiths may say, God is the only one that forgives sin. God is the only one that forgives sin. God is the only one that can cleanse. God is the only one that can wash it away. God is the only one that can infill you. God is the only one that gets to do all of that. And He's the one that we will be judged by one day. So I think what I have learned by just going through this, and I hope that it has made sense, is that God Himself can use any vessel willing to be used. And it is up to us to decide then from there how we are going to carry ourselves. If you get invited to something where you know there's going to be alcohol being drank and you have a weakness of that, then don't go. I don't care if it's a family thing. I don't care. If it is a weakness and you know it is. Now, I used to have a weakness when it came to that. Somebody offered, I would have to, I was in. But I've been able to get over that. So if I go to a family event and they're drinking, it doesn't bother me one bit now. Knock yourself out. But if you haven't got there, then don't go to that thing. If you have a problem in some area and you know that there's a possibility that that's going to occur, whether it's drugs, whether it's the way you're going to present yourself, the way you're going to carry yourself, then you have to make a decision. Because you may never get another opportunity. There may be people that see that photo and that is where they stop. They judge me right there, and that's where they stop. You know? That one moment. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's trip and fall. You know? I want to be the one there to help lift them back up. I want to be the one back there to encourage them. I want to be the one there to pray for them and not beat them over the head for the mistake that they made. You will never, ever, ever hear me browbeat or kick somebody when they're down spiritually. I've had many people that have come here, that have been here, that still attend here, that have said, oh man, I've done this, I'm here, and I tell them all the time, God still loves you. I still love you. There's still hope. There's still a call. There's still a purpose. All you got to do is come back. Oh, I've been out for too long and I've said too many things to too many people and I know that listen, just get back. Just come back in. Just sit back down. Just begin to worship again. Just get back into the presence of God, because nothing is worth a lost soul. Nothing. Hell is forever. Hell is forever. I've had some of the most horrible, most wicked, vile things done to me, and those people that done them, I do not wish hell on them. I don't wish hell on them. I've thought about knocking their fronts out a couple of times, but I don't want them to go to hell. You know what I mean? A little pain, but not forever and ever, you know? I've prayed for Carmen. I don't think you're supposed to do that either. But I have. And the Lord deals with me on that. The lessons that we can learn from Samson's life are that if we are willingly and repeatedly walking into temptation, which leads us to sin, we will suffer the consequences of our disobedience, even through God. Even though God can still use us to accomplish His will, but you're getting nothing from it. See, I want to do God's will and receive the blessings from it. I want to do God's will and receive the anointing that comes from it. Man, I have not had the fresh, I felt re-energized this last Sunday. I felt re-anointed this last Sunday. I felt a fire that I haven't felt in forever, and I want to hold on to that. I want to ride that baby out for all it's worth, man. And so I'm not going to worry about the little things. I'm going to keep my eyes on God. I'm going to keep my eyes on His calling in my life to keep doing what He's called me to do. Too often we get so lost on all of the negativity that's going on. That's why I honestly, sometimes I feel like every single one of us should just delete Facebook. And I know like half of people went, I can't believe you just said that. I cannot believe you said that. Facebook. I say the reason that I stay on it is because I have long-distance friends and long-distance family that's on there, and so I like the idea that I keep in contact with them. But if I really look at it, how much have I even talked to those people? I mean, really? You know what I mean? We're not talking. We're not PMing each other. We're not posting on each other's walls. They're just there. They're just in my friends list. You know? They can pick up a cell phone and call me, you know? I don't know. I'm kicking it around. There's so much negativity on there. I mean, you can't post nothing on there. Half the things that get posted on Facebook, I go straight to the comments. I'm just dying to see what people say and just see the stupidity that begins to unfold underneath there, you know. And then I think, good grief, what am I doing? Why am I even, you know, because then all of a sudden you want to say something. You know, somebody has said something really stupid on there, and now you really want to say something. And I've allowed myself to get into a couple of those arguments, and I'm not going to let that happen anymore. So I think in some ways, I almost do want to get rid of it. Just because I want to stop, you know, the more that you feed your spirit, the more that begins to come out of you. If you're constantly feeding yourself negativity and darkness and all this garbage, well, then it's no wonder that, we come in here on Sunday morning or Wednesday night and we feel beat down, defeated, and God can't bless me. God's not going to answer my prayers. God's not listening, because we just feed and feed. What are we watching on TV? I know I used to get so mad when preachers would get up and talk about, well, now, you got to quit watching horror movies and you got to quit watching rated R movies. And I wouldn't watch nothing past a kids film, and of course those aren't even that great anymore either. Disney films are pushing the bar as much as they can, it seems like, anymore, and everything. And it was like, I wouldn't. And I'm thinking, oh, come on, there ain't nothing to watching. I know it's all fake. I know I know zombies ain't real. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, dude. I know that the sorcerer or whatever isn't a real, blah, blah, blah. But if you continuously feed all this darkness and all of this negativity and all of this, and then what else usually comes with those films? A lot of times nudity is introduced into that thing, and so that gets your mind. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're constantly feeding all of this junk into our minds and into our brain. You get guys that have. Whenever I was riding with a motorcycle group here in town, great bunch of guys. Good people, but we ended up getting this one kid in that he had watched that Sons of Anarchy just a little too many times. We were no one percenters, like we were just dudes that got together. They're still a group, but we're just dudes that got together and did fundraisers for Special Olympics and things like that. And we just rode together. And yeah, we had a patch or whatever, but I mean, we weren't one percenters, which is the true boys, the gang guys. But he come on the scene, man, and I mean, this dude was ready to, kill, for the president. Like, we went to this one rally thing, this fundraiser thing, and our president's walking around, and this dude's walking around with him, and every time our president would get too far away from him, he'd stop and go back to where he was and kind of put his hand on him, so that he always knew. And finally, the president's like, "What are you doing? Why do you keep following me?" He's like, "I'm trying to make sure that my president's safe." It's like, we're at the Special Olympics fundraiser. I think I'm okay, I mean, who's going to jump me at the Special Olympics fundraiser? Like, I think I'm safe, man, We're not in the middle of the cartel drug deal right now, like we're at the Special Olympics thing, And it's just like, so I mean, it's mentality. You feed and you feed and you feed and you feed and you feed. But if we would reverse that. See, if we would get on that, on the Right Now media and start looking at those things, the Bible studies that are on there, get our kids watching those programs that have the Veggie Tales and the good cartoons and the good things to feed them with, then we could start recultivating this culture. So we could start re-stirring this thing instead of them watching this nonsense and Deadpool and all this other stuff that is horrible for them to be viewing. They could be being fed the good things. Good things start being fed into your system. Then way before here. Then the only option from there is that they begin to do good. They begin to be fed correctly. Does this all make sense? Did I lose anybody anywhere? I can rattle sometimes. I just want to make sure that we understand that the slip and fall is not where we stay. It's to get back up and let's keep moving forward. Let's keep this journey going. Let's keep the right foot going past the left foot, and let's just keep trying to reach the lost. I want to do another event where we go door knocking again, so we're going to put that date together. So be prepared for that to come up very soon. And then I'm also going to be talking to Pastor about coming in here sometime through the week or maybe on the weekend, and we're going to start doing a prayer night in here. Because we're not going to win this city without prayer. John talked about that in his the last sermon, the sermon before that. I can't remember what he talked about. Last sermon. My memory's not so good looking, so. But we're not going to win this thing without prayer. without interceding. And I'm not yeah, we need to be in the prayer room before church because this is what, you can literally just feel that, just, man, when that room lights up, man, you just feel it come with you, man. I mean, you just light it up, man. And so I invite you to be in that room. I know sometimes I can't make it because I'm 15 different places in the morning, but that can't be all that we're doing, is that 10, 15 minutes before church. We need to be getting on our knees before God and start crying out over the lost in this city. Amen? Let's stand together.